Mueller, She Wrote is brought to you by our listeners and their generous monthly contributions. For as little as $1 per month, you can get VIP access to all of our bonus content, including our weekly newsletter, Mueller, She Wrote merchandise, and ad-free episodes. We donate part of the proceeds to progressive candidates down to impeach Trump and flip Congress blue, so please help us make this podcast and make history by visiting MuellerSheWrote.com and clicking on subscribe. This podcast contains explicit language.
So to be clear, Mr. Trump has no financial relationships with any Russian oligarchs.
That's what he said. That's what I said. That's obviously what our position is.
I'm not aware of any of those activities. I have been called a surrogate at a time or two in that campaign, and I did not have communications with the Russians.
What do I have to get involved with Putin for? I have nothing to do with Putin. I've never spoken to him. I don't know anything about him other than he will respect me. Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 30,000 emails that are missing.
So, it is political. You're a communist.
No, Mr. Green. Communism is just a red herring. Like all members of the oldest profession, I'm a capitalist.
Hello, welcome to Mueller, She Wrote. I'm AG. With me, as always, is Jordan Coburn.
Hello.
And Jaleesa Johnson.
Hey.
So as you guys know, I go by AG because I'm a government employee. I need to keep my identity separate from my politics. And recently, I've been getting a lot of very concerned messages from listeners pointing out a very obvious clue to my real name on the internet. And I'm here to tell you thank you so much for your concern, but don't worry. I'm aware of it. It's not a violation of the Hatch Act, and that's also not my real name. So, nudge, nudge, wink, wink. So please follow us on Twitter and Insta at Mueller, She Wrote. We're over 2,000 followers, guys, so we're 20% on the way to our goal of 10,000 followers. Woo! In which I will personally buy someone a PlayStation 4, hashtag PlayStation. We need as many likes on Facebook, so find us there and like us there too if you would. We will thank you kindly. This week, Jordan's going to be covering a wonderful fellow for us named Dana Rohrabacher. He's been up and down. I think we reported on him last week because he was at the Vesselnitskaya was at his confirmation, or not his election, whatever that shit is when you win, inauguration. And so Jaleesa also has a report for us, and that's on the differences between Mueller and Trump. Two rich dudes. What happened?
That's a good question, yes.
A fork in the road. And
we're going to get to the bottom of it, for sure.
We're totally going to. And so that's really awesome. It's a wonderful article shared with us this week by at Scott C. McGinnis on Twitter. So we look forward to that. Today we have some very special guests, you guys, from a sister podcast on Podbean, the Cult Podcast, which I love. Woo. You can find them on Podbean or wherever you get your podcasts. Like them, follow them, all that. We have Paige Wesley. Welcome, Paige.
Hi.
Yeah.
Hello. And Armando Torres. How are you guys?
Hello. I'm good. How are you, Paige?
I'm good as well. Thank you.
You guys know each other.
Yes.
Because right before this, you guys recorded Cult Podcast, and then before that, I was here with Robert Timothy recording Science Faction.
This is intense. This house is
We've literally just switched seats. It's all just musical chairs did.
Well, I've been a big fan of your guys' podcast. I hope you got my fan letters telling fucking hearts and all that.
You are not John Spurlock.
Only on the internet.
You, sir, are no John Spurlock. All right, guys, I know I say this every week, but this has been a crazy week in news. Fruits of this investigation are starting to drop, and monkeys are picking it up and eating it and getting drunk. If you guys ever watched that David Attenborough special on the Okavango Basin, one of my favorites. Anyway, side podcast. Anyway, these indictments are coming out now at like a fierce pace, and so we've got all these felony charges. I have a feeling they aren't going to slow down for a while either. So hang on to your seats. Make sure, go back. Listen from one again. Listen from the first indictments. I think it'll give you a nice framing of how this whole thing has unfolded. But we have a lot to get to this week, so let's jump right in with just the facts. All right, on Monday, CNN reported that Jared Kushner is being investigated for his finances and his meeting with Sergei Gorkov, among other things. Mueller is now looking beyond Kushner's Russia contacts, that was what he was initially being looked at for, and into his efforts to obtain financing for his 666 Fifth Avenue property.
Which, how evil I know. That's so good. I sent that to my mom when I saw it, and I was like, I think Kushner might be the Antichrist.
Oh, yeah.
So just heads up.
It would explain a lot, for sure.
Right?
He had to pick that He had to pick that number, right?
I bet he did.
And actually, at those properties, you do get to choose your numbers. So that's...
Well, the guy whose last name involves Kush had to get the sickest number.
I like that.
You guys are dorks. So anyway, he's looking beyond that into his finances from Chinese and Qatari investors. Also, Mueller is scrutinizing a meeting Kushner had with Sergei Gorkov, a Russian financier. Flynn attended some of those meetings, and since he's cooperating with the investigation, I speculate that some of Flynn's proffer has led to this line of inquiry.
Yes.
On Tuesday, Mueller indicted a guy named Zwaan. I've been calling him VDZ. I don't know, it just sounds like an STD to me.
Or like Dragon Ball Z or something.
Yeah. It's just way cooler than his name. He's the son-in-law of a Russian oligarch named Herman Kahn, which is spelled like German Kahn, but it's Herman Kahn, who runs Alpha Bank, or he doesn't run it. He's one of the 4 people who are ahead of it. The Alpha Group, or the Alpha Bank in Russia. Alpha, if you're going like, I've heard that somewhere before. Yes, you have. It is the entity that Trump servers began communicating with at the beginning of his campaign.
That's what I thought. I was like, we've heard of this.
And we mentioned that in the Fusion, well, we didn't. Glenn Simpson mentioned it in the Fusion GPS testimony. And he's mentioned in the Steele dossier.
Wow.
The Alpha Bank. So they're kind of, they're the blue dress. Okay? To put it bluntly. This indictment alleges that Zwaan knew about Manafort and Gates getting a cooked report from Skadden law firm on the jailing of Tymoshenko. Tymoshenko is the opponent of the pro-Russian Ukrainian president Yanukovych. That's the guy Manafort worked for. He's a Putin guy. Putin installed him in Ukraine so he could have kind of control over the Ukraine. And Tymoshenko was the people's person, and she was the opposition party. And they jailed her, and then they cooked this report up with Skadden law firms to kind of, they made fake news, basically.
Yeah, for sure.
They're really good at it.
Oh, it's their best thing. Yeah, their best skill.
Yeah, this was a part of a larger effort to get people in the United States and the EU to publicly support Yanukovych and create fake news about Tymoshenko. This likely came from Gates' proffer meeting from February 1st, just a few weeks ago, which we'll talk about later, or it could have come from that no-knock raid at Manafort's house, but I could be wrong, I'm guessing. The weird part is that I could say the following sentence. I could say, quote, Manafort managed the campaign of a guy handpicked by Putin in Russia, and his main strategy was to jail his female opponent, chanting lock her up, and creating fake news about her with the help of Russian troll farms. And you wouldn't know what country I was talking about.
Right.
That's insane.
So Manafort worked for so long for that Yanukovych guy. Lock her up came from that campaign.
Oh, yeah.
From Tymoshenko. And spreading fake news about her, and they're like, perhaps we can do this in the United States. And
I know what they say.
If it ain't broke, fucking do it to the United States. Is that it?
What do we call fake news that's actually fake news?
So real news is fake news. What's fake news?
I like when you call it compromise. Like, I think that's the most accurate.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Disinformatia.
There you go.
Nice.
Well, bro, this is some good Kushner right here, bro.
It's got to be a strain by now.
And I think I brought up in a previous episode that I hope in prison his nickname is Tushner.
Whoa! Clever.
Not really. Okay. We also got confirmation Monday from Coates, that's the head of the NSA, that the Russian spy chiefs, remember a couple weeks ago, 3 Russian spy chiefs came over, the guy from the FSB, the guy from the SVR, and the guy from the GRU. We got confirmation because Blumenthal or somebody Grassley maybe sent a letter over to them saying, dude, what the fuck, we let these dudes in, one of them sanctioned.
Right.
Well, Coates got back and said, yes, I did meet with the chief from the FSB and the SVR. I got him a special visa to let the sanctioned guy come in. But the third guy, who was also sanctioned, the head of the GRU, was here, but we still haven't figured out who he met with or what he was doing.
That's a problem.
Yeah. So that's scary.
Just don't buy the spies.
And if you've seen a picture of that guy, Google it, because he's a fucking scary looking dude. He looks like this all is straight out of just like a great like spy novel, like Skadden Industries and the head of the GRU, and he just looks the part. You know, he's just a
Definitely
creepy looking dude. On Wednesday, Trump tweeted that Obama is to blame for Russian meddling. and called out Jeff Sessions for not prosecuting Obama for Russian meddling.
Now that's confusing.
It is. What about the Russian hoax? I'm confused.
Well, I always wonder too. I'm like, what would Obama's motive be? Like, why? Like, it clearly didn't work. Like, if he was the one doing it.
And he's leaving office.
Yeah.
It's not like...
He just wanted to be the last Democrat ever. That's what he was doing.
Like, he's just calling Putin and being like, "Sup, bro?"
Yeah, it's so fun. Like, Russia didn't collude. No, Russia didn't interfere. It was a hoax. But if they did, it was Obama.
Yeah. I do both have sexy beach pics, though.
Yeah.
Probably the most.
Yeah, but do we have an Obama on a horse or a bear or anything like that?
Oh,
need
the
it.
horse and the bear ones are my favorite.
That's what America needs right
That's
now.
what I picture Russia is, just as a whole.
Exactly, yeah.
That's why they have Cozy Bear. And,
Yeah, like they just ride bears to work.
There's like bear cops in the street.
Oh my God, bear!
Bear like
Bear
forest
Cops
rangers.
coming this season to Fox.
Because see, when I listen to this podcast, I have to try and picture what a lot of this stuff is like. Because sometimes I don't know what these people look like. So now, just imagining that, like, all of Russia's defense is bears. Oh, so much better for me. Thank you.
if you do a show on Fox called Bear Cops and it's Obama and Putin, that works because it's a black guy and a white guy.
Right.
And they're solving crimes together on bears.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Or just like thick, hairy gay cops. I'd watch that too.
I'd watch both.
I'd watch both.
Do you think Trump just wanted to be the last one to do the "Thanks Obama" meme?
Oh yeah. That would do it for sure.
Maybe. So Obama's to blame for Russia. Okay. So it's funny because the next thing in my notes says, we learned today, which is Wednesday, that Gates might make a deal as a new sealed indictment hit the docket. We'll find out later this week, I guess.
Oh, how naive we were.
Seriously.
Just 3 days ago. Also on Wednesday, we found out about a guy named Cock. And I just have to talk about it because his name is Cock.
I don't know. I've been familiar with Cock for quite a while.
Well, let me tell you something you might not know about Cock. Cock is a banker that lent Manafort money when no one else would, and Manafort may or may not have promised Cock a job in the White House.
You can't write this stuff.
Specifically, Secretary of the Army.
Oh, what a dick.
Cock. Oh, poor Army. I could mock them for days, but only because I was in the Navy. Totally Cock. Oh, God, of course. He finds the one guy named Cock. All right, then something weird happened. In a sad attempt to seize the narrative, right-wing news sources, Fox and everybody, started a little hashtag campaign. They tried so hard, but it fizzled, to get Flynn to withdraw his guilty plea. Now, the reason you guys don't know what I'm talking about is because this was so sad and pathetic that it never made it anywhere. The reason... Okay, so basically, remember the Nunes memo?
Yeah.
Oh, you do? Because I don't. And it's kind of like that. But basically, the judge in Flynn's case filed an order that said, and I'm paraphrasing, in addition to evidence of crime, criminal evidence, the prosecution must also hand over any exculpatory evidence to the defense during discovery.
Brady.
Okay? Mm-hmm. So that's basically, it means the judge ordered Mueller to turn over any and all evidence that's good for Flynn, not just the stuff that's bad for Flynn, okay? Now, the hilarious part is the right wing latched onto this, and they're like, hey, Flynn must be innocent, because the judge is ordering to turn over stuff that says he's innocent. But actually, this is an order that judges enter during discovery as a matter of procedure to remind the prosecution that they have to give over exculpatory evidence if they have
standard.
it. Yeah, it's a these people don't understand how government works.
If they don't, it's considered a Brady violation. If you can prove it, it's reason to have convictions overturned.
Oh, for not handing over exculpatory evidence.
Yep.
Right. So now it's probably, in all federal court cases, a rule or a policy that you have to remind the prosecution to turn over any exculpatory evidence.
Right.
Yep.
Wouldn't they just be doing that on their own, just to try to make a case for
No,
themselves?
this is the prosecution.
Oh, got it.
So
Okay.
This would be like if you murdered somebody and the state is trying you, but they found evidence that says maybe you didn't murder somebody. They can't keep that from you.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
They have to at least tell you. They might not use it in the trial, but they have to inform you of it. And if they don't, it's what's considered a Brady violation.
Cool.
Brady Bunch.
Yeah,
It's against,
good to know.
All right, so that was stupid and a dumb hashtag that happened.
Wait,
for like
what was the
minute.
hashtag?
I think
Free Flint or something.
I don't know. So you know what? It was probably something dumb like withdraw your guilty plea, Mike, or something. You know,
Way too long. Like this hashtag is 47 letters.
old people are not good at
The
the
reason
internet.
Free Flynn didn't work is because it got mixed with a different hashtag, Free Flan at Chipotle. Okay, that was such a dumb
No,
joke.
I was convinced
Fuck.
for a moment.
God damn
Chipotle
it.
had flan. I'd be down.
So convincing, yeah.
Mid-sentence, I went, this is not
You gotta
gonna
commit
go
to the
well.
bit, man.
They have nacho cheese now. It's not that far off.
What?
They did.
And
So does
Taco Bell
Taco
has
Bell.
fries now.
Yeah.
What is this?
Yeah.
What is life?
What is life even?
Thanks, Obama.
Also on Wednesday, we got the transcript from the VDZ, the Van der Zwaan indictment hearing, and it turns out he's not cooperating with Mueller. He just signed a guilty plea.
Ooh.
He just pleaded guilty. No cooperation. 9 from Van der Zwaan.
So his charges must not have been bad enough for him to need to actually
Well, he's also not a
work with him.
citizen, so the likelihood of them being able to charge and
Yeah.
incarcerate him is much lower than somebody who's actually here.
And he just lied to the FBI, so
Yeah.
it's not like the 32 other charges
Right.
that some people have. Thursday, Mueller entered a superseding indictment on the Manafort Gates case that included 32 new felony charges on top of the 12 from the first indictment. These new charges include tax fraud, money laundering, and lying to banks to get loans, also known as bank fraud. These new charges were filed in the Eastern District of Virginia, whereas the first charges were filed in D.C.
Oh.
I'll go over the indictments a little later in the show. I'm going to talk about the indictments in the second half of the show. We learned that Tom Green is actually Gates' lawyer on Wednesday,
luck.
on Thursday. On Thursday, but then 10 minutes later, we learned he was fired, but then he came back again.
Right.
But I think it was just bad reporting. He decided to be his lawyer. It's been musical fucking lawyers for Gates for a few weeks now.
His
It's like-
defense attorney, sorry.
No, go ahead.
His defense attorneys, when they left, they said it was over irreconcilable differences.
Yep.
Was it
AKA,
because
like,
they didn't like Freddie Got Fingered? I'm sorry. I still like picturing that it's like the Tom Green.
Actually, I know what the irreconcilable differences were, and I'll tell you in a little bit.
nice.
We'll get to that. So Mueller was scheduled to meet with Sam Nunberg. Do you guys remember Nunberg? The Nunberger?
The Nunberger, yeah.
He was scheduled to meet with Mueller on Thursday. Nunberg was a Trump campaign aide we talked about briefly in episode, 10 or something. Listen, just go listen. He was fired in August 2015, way early on, for racially charged Facebook posts, which I thought would get you hired onto the Trump campaign.
Maybe it was the other way, where he was like, "Hey, we're all equal." And they're like,
Right.
you gotta go, man.
to Trump, that's racially
Right,
charged.
exactly.
I'm very triggered.
Yeah, so he was fired, and he was also an associate of Roger Stone. Trump sued Nunberg for $10 million, saying he broke confidentiality by telling the press about the affair and arguments between Hicks and Lewandowski.
Right.
And they settled in August 2016, but the details are not available, so we don't know how they settled.
Fan fiction.
Yeah.
You know what? I've been writing Lewandowski and Hicks fan fiction for like the last 2 weeks. So I feel you.
We should do some like Hicks Lewandowski Porter erotica.
I'm down. I volunteer.
50 Shades of White.
White privilege.
Eggshell.
Cream. On Friday, we heard rumblings Friday morning that Gates may have flipped. He wrote a letter to his family and friends, many of whom didn't want him to plead out, saying that he had a change of heart. And Gates had been going back and forth on a plea deal all week. He was like the biggest cock tease with the thing, and since the beginning of February, finally he gets a plea deal in. He pleaded down to 2 counts. Pleaded down to 2 counts: defrauding the United States, tax and FARA violations, and FARA's Foreign Agents Registry Act.
Yeah, not applying as a foreign.
Yeah, as a foreign agent. So so 2 counts: defrauding the U.S. Tax and the FARA stuff, and then lying to the special counsel. But here is the awesome part, you guys: the lying to the special counsel part didn't happen months and months ago, like most normal fucking people.
Right.
His lying happened on February 1st.
Oh no, 2018.
Yes.
He just lied.
That's when he had his plea agreement hearing. It's called a Queen for the Day interview, and the reason they call it that is because he's gay. No.
He's a big Freddie Mercury fan.
That would make me like him more, but I don't think that's the case.
Yeah, I know. There's nothing cool about him.
Or they are, and they're just also repressed, and that's why they're such fucking pieces of shit
Cozy
right now.
bears,
Just
yeah, man.
anger.
They are cozy bears.
The coziest.
Bear Cops coming to Fox.
Fox News.
I feel like we have to make a trailer now. A little bumper. So Queen for the Day means this is your plea deal interview, and if you're good, and you can tell all of your past crimes and everything you know, and you are not subject to charges for those crimes.
Right.
You're immune unless you lie.
The one rule.
So close. He was so close.
Why lie on a time when you're immune? Like, that's so crazy.
Because
It's just compulsive. He can't.
Because if you lie, everything you've told them, you're liable to face charges for in that interview. So it's the dumbest thing anyone could ever do. I don't know why he did it. He thought he was smarter. He thought he could smarter than Mueller. I don't.
Smarter than I like that.
I mean, clearly not. Like, if somebody offers you immunity, that's when you just, like, let it fly. Like, on Drag Race, when somebody gets immunity, that's when they pull out the weirdest headpiece.
Exactly.
Like, you gotta, like, let it all out.
I would admit to jaywalking if I knew that.
Yeah, for sure.
Plus all those murders.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the side stuff.
Minor
So,
detail.
yeah.
Well, anyway, remember when you were just asking me about why his lawyers quit due to irreconcilable differences?
Yeah,
I
yep.
think they quit because he lied in his fucking plea deal at meeting. They were like, fuck.
Yeah.
They
You're
did
an idiot.
My
No,
God.
thank you.
You know when you go to a blackjack table and they smack their hands and hold them up so you can see it? That's what they did. They did casino hands.
Were his lawyers present when he was giving the...
Yes.
Yeah? Oh, that's so good. They just facepalm. That's when Mueller knew. Like, Jesus Christ.
And the FBI
man.
had to push back from the table and be like, thank you so much.
Seriously.
Because now, everything you just told us, which is probably those 32 other charges about bank fraud and tax evasion and everything you did with Manafort, all that shit you just told us, we're going to file indictments.
Yes.
And I think that's probably what happened. Just a theory. But the fact is,
sense.
he lied during his Queen for the Day
Yes.
interview.
Oh, God.
Also on Friday, we learned that one of the Russians indicted by Mueller last week, remember the 13 Russians, for election meddling on behalf of Trump, turned out to be the head of the pro-Assad Russian mercenary group that attacked U.S. troops in Syria on February 7th.
Whoa.
That's insane.
That's
It is.
huge.
Yeah.
The U.S. troops were attacked by Russian mercenaries in Syria, and one of the Russians indicted last week was the head of that group. So
There's something bigger going on, man. Bigger than Russia, even. It's crazy.
We talked about it in one episode, right? That concept of a deal.
that was the Marshall
Saudi
Plan.
Arabia, yeah. North Korea. There's some world order going on here.
Well, the recolonization of the Middle East through the Marshall Plan by building nuclear reactors in Saudi Arabia. Oh my God, I sound like a
Nailed it.
tinfoil hat person.
No. Time will clear your name.
Connecting the dots, yeah.
All right, then another superseding indictment was filed by Mueller against Manafort, alleging he paid Europeans to lobby on behalf of Yanukovych and told them to act like they weren't paid to do so. That's, fake news, right? It was the Ukrainian equivalent of the Hillary Pizza Shop basement sex trafficking ring.
Pizzagate.
This is the meeting that Gates lied about in his Queen for the Day interview. That's what his lie was. He said that meeting didn't happen, or he wasn't at that meeting. When Manafort tried to get these European politicians, I think there's 3 or 4 of them.
The VIP group of...
Also, you know who else was there?
Yep.
Dana Rohrabacher.
Yep.
And you're going to go into that.
Very nice. Ties in perfectly.
He's extremely pro-Russian. And
Yeah.
I'm wondering, what could they be trading? My theory is Rohrabacher agreed to oppose congressional aid to the Ukraine, which actually happened shortly after that meeting.
Oh.
So he could have received maybe campaign donations from Russia. This is all conjecture.
Yeah.
Also on Friday, we found out Rosenstein called the White House a couple of weeks ago and tell him there was an issue with Kushner's security clearance.
Oh, really?
That required ongoing further investigation.
You don't say. But they've been so good about that so far.
I know. And he did not say that this information was discovered during the FBI background check. Okay, and that is indicative that the information could have come from the Mueller probe. Also indicative that it could have come from the Mueller probe is the fact that the fucking Deputy Attorney General called the Chief of Staff instead of the FBI turning a report over to the White House counsel. So, Rosenstein called the chief of staff directly. I
weird,
think
man.
Kushner's time as a free man is winding down.
We've been calling that since like the second episode. We're just waiting.
How good is that? If he's on house arrest, he could just live in his 666 hell property.
Perfect.
Yeah. Be his own personal hell.
Yeah. I love it.
Great.
Yeah, especially because a bunch of other Russians live there, apparently.
Tax dollars at work.
Fake
It's like
weapons.
they didn't even try. They didn't even try to cover shit up.
They want
It's just-
chaos and they're getting it. Either way, they win. At least right now.
No, usually when you cover shit up, you try.
Maybe you're right. Maybe,
fail.
yeah.
This is ridiculous.
They've done it well for the past 30 years. We didn't know they were still doing this. We weren't thinking about them, and all of a sudden they chose
really?
to
Yeah.
be caught. I don't know. They want chaos, I think.
Well, they're just, well, maybe I think
We'll
they're
see.
stupid.
I'm crazy. Don't worry about it.
Late Friday night, the White House released a statement saying the White House, as it has said from the outset, will not be commenting on matters involving Mr. Manafort or Mr. Gates, as the matters between them and the Office of the Special Counsel are dated and have nothing to do with their service to the campaign. Lols.
What does the White House know? It's just a stupid house.
Houses don't talk.
They write letters.
You guys, this has been awesome. That's the news. We'll be right back after this quick break. Mueller, She Wrote is a very fancy podcast, and as such, we have a few expenses. That's where you come in. If you all gave $1 a month, we'd be able to cover our costs while ensuring we bring you the most up-to-date news from the Mueller sphere. Help us make your Monday mornings brighter, and in return you'll get exclusive access to ad-free episodes, bonus content, our newsletter, and all sorts of merch like reusable grocery bags, t-shirts, stickers, and of course the forthcoming Sexy Justice calendar, which, as much as it pains me to say, will not contain naked photos of James Comey. So stop asking. Please visit MuellerSheWrote.com and click subscribe to support women in podcasting today. And thank you so much for listening. All right, we're back. Thank you so much for listening to us. We've made it through the week's news.
Yes.
Which means it's time to pass the mic over to Jordan Coburn.
Hello.
She's going to tell us about this beautiful, wonderful man named Dana Rohrabacher. Jordan?
Yes. So, Representative Dana Rohrabacher, he's a Republican from Costa Mesa, California. Of course, he's a Republican. Yeah. Have you been to Costa Mesa?
Right in your backyard.
It is scary. It is
I went
like,
to UC Irvine, which is like right there.
I used to live there, like the Virgin Mega stores right there.
Yes. So Stepford Wivesy. It's so weird. So he's from that district. And he has had a friendly history with Russia like no other representative. And now it is coming out that he's been involved in a lot of these key points within the timeline of the Mueller investigation. So not that he's being investigated criminally, he's not at all, but his name continues to pop up. And so there was a great article published, and I think it was USA Today, maybe, that it was. It'll be in the newsletter. Subscribe.
Yeah.
But they lay out a timeline just of his involvement, so I'm just going to go through that, because there's a lot of really juicy stuff. This is a very juicy timeline.
notes.
So back to 2012 is when the FBI first warns Rohrabacher.
No, I'm sorry. It's dated.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with my White House.
Cut off. Fast forward.
Shut up, you house.
The FBI warns him that a Russian spy was trying to recruit him as an agent of influence. To which I imagine he responded, "What?"
Next on USA, Agent of Influence.
I know we're joking, but these are great shows.
I know, they really are.
We gotta call NBC or something.
Yeah, I'm sure they exist somewhere on, like, I don't know, 4chan. What are the kids doing these days? I don't know. That's a little too much, I guess. But what he actually said was that he said he wasn't worried when the FBI warned him. He's like, I'm not worried. And there's no evidence that, he's been paid off or anything by them. So he's just going to keep trucking.
Okay.
Fast forward to March 19th, 2013. This is when the dinner with Manafort happens. The one that Gates was caught lying about. Mm-hmm. He was present at this meeting, like AG just said. And so this was when Manafort was working on behalf of a pro-Russian Ukrainian political party. Let's see. They said, okay, so they'd worked together on Reagan's campaign, actually. Did you know that? Manafort, Manafort and, I didn't know that. Yeah, seriously. Oh my god, yeah, that'd be amazing to talk to them though. That'd be
True.
Manafort is 74 or something. He looks
Dude,
pretty
Mueller's
good.
73. Isn't that crazy?
What?
Yeah, him and
It's great.
He
He's
does.
so good.
Like, no lie.
He and Trump
Yes.
are 22 months apart. It blows my mind. But go ahead, I'm sorry.
So cute.
Trump doesn't look great for 70.
No, very like pinned by clothespins.
Trump
So
doesn't
it's
look
like,
great for 45.
He looks like the emperor. Like, when his hair blew up, like, oh.
That's true. That's true.
yeah, it was amazing. So Manafort didn't file as a foreign agent with the DOJ or disclose this dinner, and that's kind of where it starts coming under investigation. The contents of this meeting is what Gates pleaded guilty to.
You got it.
And what actually happened is they both reported back to Ukraine, to Ukraine, to Ukraine, and they found that document, so that fucked him. Fast forward to April 2016, meeting in Moscow. So he goes and meets with a high-ranking Russian justice official, and this is during the time that Congress was expanding the Magnitsky Act, which prevents human rights abusers essentially from traveling to the U.S. or spending money in the U.S.
Yeah.
So, how do you say it again?
Rohrabacher.
Thank you. Rohrabacher.
You can call him Dana.
I like Dana.
About, like, a bear in lederhosen.
Yes.
Ooh,
It's all bears.
I like that.
Yeah, thank you. That is very helpful, actually. It's a good mnemonic. Rohrabacher.
Is also the season finale of Bear Cats. Yes!
It never gets old. Never.
Really?
Not to me.
I'm kidding. No.
I'm sorry, listeners.
I
Like,
fucking
it's only
cracked
been
up.
like 20 minutes.
No, don't worry. I'm still laughing.
So at this meeting, Rohrabacher is given a memo that says that changes to the Magnitsky Act would have favorable consequences on behalf of Russia.
Right.
And when confronted about the meeting, he says that it was a quote-unquote nothing burger. And it was real. He actually says that. Yeah. And says that as the position that he holds in Congress, he has a duty to go and get any info and intel that he can. And that's all he was doing, was just hearing him out.
Yeah,
but really what happened at that meeting was they presented a whole slew of facts that dispute the premise of the Magnitsky Act and say, Magnitsky wasn't that guy. He was actually a piece of shit in these ways.
The disinformatia campaign against Bill Browder and Magnitsky.
Yes, exactly.
Saying they were full of duty.
Yes. A new first-person shooter game coming to you.
Full of duty.
That's beautiful.
You just go up to people and be like, no, it's not you, it's me.
Full of duty black Cox. That's gotta be it. Yeah. Oh, Cox not black, is he? He's a white guy. Don't
Oh,
worry about
so
it.
good. Don't worry about it. We'll hash it all out
He's
later.
a banker.
Oh, that's right. He's a white guy. I said it. I'm black. I'm sorry.
So
You fucking qualify that
Sorry,
shit.
I'm black. It's okay for me to sell them out.
If we need to say anything about these Mexicans, just let me know.
thank you, Armando.
If you want.
Yeah, thanks, Armando Torres.
Oh yeah, if you can't tell from my voice, very brown. Very.
Yeah. Also half Jewish though, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, so I can talk about the bankers too.
So good. Okay, so next month, in May and June of 2016, Rohrabacher goes back to Congress and says to his subcommittee, hey, let's pursue this Magnitsky Act discrepancy. He sets it up so that these foreign agents essentially can come and present a full documentary that just documents the counter case essentially for the Magnitsky
That's
Act.
the Browder movie. Yeah.
Yes.
I gotta see that.
And then also simultaneously, this organization that Veselnitskaya, the Russian lawyer whose sole purpose in life, essentially, it seems, is to just overturn the Magnitsky Act. She has her group that she created, which is called the Human Rights Accountability Global Initiative.
Too many words.
Oh, look at the Russians.
Human rights.
HRAGI.
She gotta cut the fat.
Haragi.
As if they care about human rights.
Exactly. It's just an amazing, yet again, a troll
No,
campaign.
it's the human rights what?
It's the Human Rights Accountability.
Yeah, it's the human rights accountability.
There you
so
go.
you have to
You
be
can be like,
accountable
hey,
for being too nice to people.
Break it down. I like that. It's like a generator for just like generally good words.
Yeah, we gotta keep these human rights fucking activists in line.
Yes, and the whole purpose of this organization is to overturn the Magnitsky Act, which is punishing human rights violations. manipulators.
They're pretty clever for the most part. I think this is where they fall short, this podcast. But I think that they actually tried a little bit, right? They seem to have tried to cover this up with good intention.
Yeah, because they put the Russian adoption blanket over it, saying that it's a human rights issue to not adopt these Russian children that need to go and seek asylum in another country.
Because basically what happened was when Putin found out about the Magnitsky Act, when the Magnitsky Act was signed, he banned Americans from adopting Russian children.
Right.
Which is a horrible human rights violation, I think. And that's why the Magnitsky Act is synonymous with adoptions. And that's why when they were crafting the statement on Air Force One about what the meeting in the Trump Tower in June 2016 was that we were saying it was about adoptions. Because what adoptions means is sanctions.
Yes.
So,
yes. Very important.
Yes.
Really quick, the documentary that you were talking about like a couple points ago, was that made as evidence and then just was made public so that anyone can watch it? Or
I don't know if
made
it's
to
made
sway public opinion. Oh, you can't even watch it.
I don't know. I just heard. So what I read was that they were planning on presenting a documentary to the subcommittee that was going to outline all of the points.
It's just Supersize Me.
I think they tried to release it and Browder sued and blocked it. I think. I don't know. Tell me, Browder. I know you listen. I know you're listening.
Yes.
Here it is. Doug Benson's going to make his own version.
Ooh, very nice.
Doug loves Magnitsky.
Featuring Kushner. Yes.
That's good. You're good.
It's just good to be here.
So his plans to have this subcommittee oversee this gets thwarted by Ed Royce, who's the chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee. And he says, we're just going to make this discussion a full committee topic, which means that Royce is going to get to call in the witnesses. And so basically, Rohrabacher gets thwarted there.
Thwarts the Bacher.
Yes. And fun fact right here. So foreign lobbyist Akhmetshin, how do you say his name? He's Vesselnitskaya's homie. They're always going together. Yeah. So
not Sechin, but Akhmetshin.
Yes. So he registered as a lobbyist, but not as a foreign agent. But he was very involved in this process and essentially helping Rohrabacher with.
He's actually foreign.
Yes.
Like they totally.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we get mad at Americans for not registering as foreign agents when they are lobbying for Russians, but this guy's a fucking Russian.
Let me fact check that actually, and if that is wrong, then thank you. Yes, we'll put a pin in it. But one of that guy's clients owns Previzon, which is the company sued by Preet. Right?
Preet Bharara.
Previzon Holdings. U.S. Attorney of New York for using stolen money, essentially, to buy real estate.
Yeah, the $230 million tax fraud from Russia, which is what the lawyer Magnitsky was looking into when he was jailed and murdered.
Yes, and then Trump gets in and then fires Bharara, right? And then with a bunch of other with a bunch of other people.
How amazing is that?
And now and then the guy that he replaces him with settles the case for $6 million, which is apparently like 50% of what they thought they were going to get out of that lawsuit. Okay, finishing up. June 9th, 2016, Trump Tower meeting. With DTJ, Kushner, Manafort. They talk about Russian adoptions there in the Magnitsky Act. That's kind of well known now. And just for context. And then June 15th, 2016.
Well, Rohrabacher wasn't at that meeting.
No,
you're
not. That's just for the context. Yeah, just for the timeline. June 15, 2016, House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy, who's a GOP colleague of Rohrabacher, gets recorded saying in a meeting, quote unquote, this is crazy, there's two people I think Putin pays, Rohrabacher and Trump. And then the recording cuts off as Paul Ryan fumbles to stop him from talking.
It's how we know we're a family here.
He was trying to make a joke.
That's what they say.
But rooted in reality.
Exactly.
The best jokes.
Grain of truth.
Exactly.
Always, yes.
So then they say that it was just a joke. Okay, 2 more dates. September 20th, 2016, Rohrabacher meets with Flynn in Washington. And in November 2017, NBC reports that the FBI was interviewing witnesses about the content of this meeting. So that's something that I think we can look forward to. Spring of 2017, Rohrabacher cancels trip to Moscow because it'll be too hard to have a real conversation with all this brouhaha about Russia, he says.
Wouldn't it be interesting if the reason that Mueller knew about this meeting was that Flynn knew? And Flynn's proffer included it, not the no-knock raid, not Gates's proffer. But Flynn's, that's weird.
That would be
Yeah.
interesting.
And then just to close that up, a source who asked to remain anonymous, he was a senior House GOP aide because he's apparently not supposed to speak to reporters, says that it was not that he chose on his own accord to not go to that trip. It was because Royce, the chairman of that committee, declined his request to travel to Moscow.
Wow.
Probably because it's just a bad look, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, just why don't you just chill? Let's just lay back for a second.
Because we know you're going to break the fucking law.
Yo,
Yeah.
Side note, these old white people hard as fuck. Like, these crimes are crazy cool.
It's pretty, white collar crime should have its own show. Oh, it does, right? What's the best white collar crime show?
You know white collar doesn't
Fox
mean they're white,
News.
You're right. Good point. You're right.
If I explained any of these crimes to, like, my Mexican family, they'd be like, oh, shit. We've just been selling crack. This is crazy.
Oh my gosh. Well,
last thing. Sorry, he met with Julian Assange in August of 2017.
Oh god. Yeah, minor detail there.
Yeah.
he's buddies with Stone and WikiLeaks.
Yeah,
and,
where he says Assange said that the emails were not obtained at all through any sort of Russian influence.
Sure. Okay, Cozy Bear.
Okay.
Wow. Thanks so much, Jordan. That was great.
Thank you.
Now,
So juice.
I know. I love it. I'm going to talk a little bit about these indictments that went down, you guys. So on Thursday, like I said, Mueller filed an indictment of 32 felony counts of bank fraud, tax evasion, and money laundering. Mm-hmm. The indictment outlined in really amazing detail a two-part scheme that Manafort and Gates carried out. The first part of the scheme lasted from 2006 to 2015. And that's when Manafort and Gates earned like tens of millions of dollars working for that pro-Russian Ukrainian candidate, Yanukovych, that guy I was telling you about. He's a Putin guy. Putin wanted him installed there so he could have control over Ukraine. The second part took place from 2015 to early 2017, maybe later. And that was the two of them lying like 9 different times and falsifying documents to desperately get loans from banks because their Yanukovych money stopped because in 2014 Yanukovych was overthrown and he had to flee to, guess where? Russia. And so he took off. So that money stopped. So all from 2015 and 2016 and part of 2017, Manafort and Gates are running around like idiots trying to get anyone to lend them money, millions of dollars. And as I said, they were falsifying documents. That's the bank fraud to try to get loans. Then in July of 2016, just after Manafort and Gates worked for the Trump campaign, they got a $16 million loan from a tiny bank that only lends to veterans, and neither of them, Manafort or Gates, are veterans. And this loan, the $16 million loan, represents a quarter of their entire income at that bank. But there's a guy there, and his name is Koch. He worked at the bank, and it appears that Manafort, as I said earlier, promised him a job in the Trump White House in exchange for the loan. Now, something that is important to note here is that Manafort was in a lot of debt to a Russian guy, to Russian interests, to the tune of about $17 million. $8 million of that was to a guy named Deripaska. Does that sound familiar?
Not exactly.
Ring a bell? Because we've talked about him before.
Okay.
He's the guy that Manafort promised campaign info briefs to that we talked about during episode 14, the Shannon Woodward episode.
Yeah. Supporting role. I like this guy.
So Deripaska, Manafort owed him a shitload of money. Mm-hmm. And him and Gates are scrambling around trying to get these loans, all the while just getting the job at the Trump campaign. And because Deripaska sued Manafort in early 2016. Yeah. And when Manafort got the job with Trump at the Trump campaign, he withdrew the case. Deripaska withdrew the case.
It was your connection.
And now we have emails that are coming out in these indictments that are between Manafort and a guy, what's his name? Kalimnik. Okay, he's an intermediary between Deripaska and Manafort.
Yeah.
Manafort's emailing Kalimnik, saying, "Hey, I work for the president's campaign now. Anything we can do to get even, Steven?" And he promised Deripaska these campaign briefs on Trump, and that's with the Navalny tape. Remember the Navalny tape I told you about the yacht where somebody's got video of I think it's probably Kalimnik or Deripaska giving a Kremlin guy all the information that Manafort gave him. So this is just all super fucking shady, right? Like this is, I think, going to be the glue, the connection, at least for this conspiracy part of it, because we had Russians reaching out to the Trump campaign, reaching out to Flynn, reaching out to Kushner through the NRA, all that stuff. But now we've got Manafort reaching out to the Russians.
It goes both ways.
Because he owes them a lot of money, and he's trying to pay him back with information from the Trump campaign. And that's conjecture, but it would make sense. It seems pretty obvious to me, with the Navalny tape and everything.
Exactly.
So they met August 2nd, 2016. Then, in the van der Zwaan guilty plea from Tuesday, we learned that Gates referred van der Zwaan to Kalimnik. That's the intermediary between Manafort and Deripaska that I was telling you about. And Manafort was briefing him, which is briefing Deripaska. And he's also person A in the van der Zwaan indictment. Remember, I was like, who's person A? Is it Kushner? Is it Manafort? Is it Donald Trump Jr.? No, it's Kalimnik.
Nice.
And so that's who that guy is. And van der Zwaan lied about having conversations with Gates, where Gates referred van der Zwaan to Kalimnik in September 2016. That's what the van der Zwaan indictment is about, is he lied about that. So Kalimnik made references. Basically, van der Zwaan had a phone conversation with Kalimnik in Russian, and Kalimnik made reference to payments that were just the, quote, tip of the iceberg, and potential legal liability for Manafort.
Right.
Manafort seems to have been trying to trade his influence, as I said, and position on the Trump campaign to pay off his debt to Deripaska. So what I was wondering is, why does he owe Deripaska money? Like, did he steal it? Did he get a loan from him and not pay it back?
I'm thinking a loan, yeah.
I was also thinking maybe they were supposed to do work for him and didn't do it. Like maybe
it's like mob style out there. Yeah, it could be anything.
Like maybe Yanukovych was supposed to get elected.
Okay, because they're already trading documents and information, so who knows how they've been operating before.
And Yanukovych was not elected. He was overthrown and had to flee to Russia. So maybe they got like a certain millions of dollars to get him elected, and when he didn't get elected, they came after him for it. I don't know.
This is deep, dude.
I don't know. But anyway, Friday, Gates was charged with 23 new felonies in addition to the 8 he had before. He replaced his legal team, hired a new lawyer, got the 31 charges dropped, and pleaded guilty to 2 new charges, then signed a cooperation agreement with the government. So on February 1st, as I told you before, Gates lied about the FBI, or to the FBI about that meeting in 2013 that he had with Manafort, 4 European politicians to lobby to Yanukovych, and Rohrabacher was probably there. That day, well, they say Congressman 1. I'm pretty sure it was Rohrabacher.
Yeah, we can fill in the blanks, yeah.
So that day, his 3 lawyers quit. I told you, probably because he lied. The 23 new felonies they charged him with were likely things they told him likely things that he told them during the proffer meeting. Because as I said, when you lie during that plea negotiation, your immunity goes away.
Yeah.
So they had him dead to rights. His cooperation argument is nuts. When he signed a cooperation argument with the government. He has to testify anytime they want him to any grand jury.
Oh my God!
Testify at trials. And the interesting thing about filing charges, Mueller filed these charges in the Eastern District of Virginia, and the original charges in the D.C. court. And now they have to do 2 trials. And they have to pay their lawyers twice as much.
Wow.
And so he's just
that's smart.
Fucking putting it to him.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but to cooperate, they've told him he might have to go undercover, and he'll have to do that. I don't know. Although was he going to wear like a weird wig?
Yeah.
He's fucking Gates.
Somebody Photoshop that, please.
He has to hand over all documents and evidence, and he's waived his right to have his legal team present at any of this shit.
Okay.
And if he doesn't do any of this stuff, he automatically goes to jail for the amount of time that his 2 charges would put him in jail for, which is 4 to 7 years.
Wow.
And he goes immediately, and there is no parole in federal prison.
That's good for America. Beautiful.
Yes, I love it.
Justice.
So the court could give him nothing if he cooperates most excellently. They might give him probation or 6 months or whatever. So Mueller is really going to go after Gates, and his proffer seems to be very worthwhile to Mueller to dismiss 31 charges. Could that? They only brought those 31 charges to get him to flip. But could that? But could that something be the quid pro quo between Trump and Russia?
Right.
Gates was there for all that. Okay?
Dude.
And he was there for that whole Manafort meeting Deripaska back and forth. And the other way, there for the whole... Yeah.
They're so fucked.
He knows a lot. So, all right, guys. We've talked about the indictments. Do you guys have anything about the indictments you were wondering, or any questions about them?
I just think it's such a nice sign that it seems like he's strategically releasing indictments at this point just to get as much information as quickly as he can now from all these people.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
It's like, if you're at the point where you can strategically release indictments, you're in a good spot.
You're pacing yourself.
And here's another thing that's really interesting, too. When Gates lied during his proffer, and then he got slapped with 23 new charges, and then had to flip 23 new charges in another district.
Right.
Doubling his court fees. And then flipped. That's Mueller saying, don't fucking lie to me.
Seriously, he's got to set that message straight. I feel like...
Because he doesn't have to release any of that shit.
Yeah.
But he's like, hey, you want to lie to me? You think I don't know everything? And that whole 13 Russian indictment thing, besides letting the country know and letting Trump know that Russia meddled in the election, so stop saying they didn't and do something about it for 2018, the detail he went into that, he knew everything about those Russians.
Yeah.
He knew their names, he knew their fake names, he knew the names of the building, he knew their address, he knew emails that they sent back and forth.
That's why I love him. He's so thorough. He says he genuinely loves the whole process of investigating people.
But that message is like, fuck. He has everything.
He's the real deal, man.
Do not lie to him.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
He's the Dave Chappelle of investigations. I mean, is that accurate? Who do we like? Who's our favorite comedian?
Well, you're talking about Dave Chappelle as a comic?
Well, yeah, like I'm saying, Mueller is like the bet. He is Trump's match. Trump has skated through his whole life getting around who knows what, and Mueller is not about that life.
He's so good, sometimes he comes up with the punishment and then figures out the setup along the way.
I love it.
You know what he does, though? He has an end game in mind. When he sits down and interviews someone, he knows the answer to every single question.
Oh, yeah. I hate to be this guy's kid.
Seriously, I was just thinking that. Like, where were you? I know where you were.
But he's such a caring
You were with
dad.
Michael.
Yeah.
Michael was wearing a blue shirt. It was in this building.
You know what, though? His friend, like one of his longtime friends that knew him, like back in college, said that it was the war that really changed him. Like, he was a very normal guy, like pretty happy, but like reasonable before that. And after the war, when his friend died, he became this straight edge, by the book, we got to do something about this country. And you can see it today. 73 years old, and I think he's going to die with a great legacy. I think.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
He may save this democracy.
I believe it.
You think he has one secret blue one just for the weekend?
For his lady, yeah. And then he
Pulls it out
has
at night. Like, guess what, baby? It's time for the blue shirt.
Mueller Monday.
Yeah. All right, you guys. Guess what? It's time for
the Indictment Fantasy League.
All right. Based on this week's indictments, I have moved Gates from the indictment category, which was he was in the superseding indictment category, so I get a point for that. Hey.
Yes, congrats.
And I'm moving him into the plea deal category. All
nice,
right.
nice.
So I've added a few names as well. I've added Dana Rohrabacher. I think he's going down.
Yeah.
I've added Thomas Barak.
Okay.
Okay, he's an old friend of Manafort, and he was head of the inaugural committee for Trump. And it's interesting because this is totally a theory that, I don't know, I just did some maths and it just came to me.
Yeah.
And it's probably completely wrong. Now, Manafort and Gates laundered $75 million. Manafort kept $18 million. Gates kept $3 million. That leaves about $50 million unaccounted for, which is about the amount of money that the inaugural fund is over.
Oh, shit.
However, if you think about it, they'd been laundering that money since 2006.
True.
I don't know.
You know what, AG? If that's got to be a big point right there, because that's a hell of a connection.
I don't know.
That's good. No,
I heard 50 million and I remembered 50 million.
It's got to be somewhere. Where is the money?
Now, I've got links to both of those articles in my
I'm
show
going to hold you
notes,
to it. That would be a good one. Yeah, yeah.
So, and Barak is old friends with Manafort. Manafort wrote a letter to Tom back in 2016 pitching himself for the Trump campaign. Barak sends emails to Trump all the time like, you rock. They're totes BFFs.
Yeah, and Trump liked Mueller, too, before all this.
He was
so weird.
He was also close to Gates, so I think his time is coming.
Wow.
Are you saying Barack? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Thomas Barrack or Barack.
Oh,
yeah.
I thought you were saying Barack Obama.
You know what? I thought so too, and I was just like, I didn't know this, but I'm not gonna.
Thomas Barack.
Okay, there we go. Thank you.
Yeah, no, the only thing Obama's getting indicted for is for being a bad motherfucker.
Were you gonna ask if he was born here?
No. But yeah. Let me see your birth certificate, everyone.
Yeah.
Are we sure that Thomas Barack isn't just Barack Obama with a cool mustache?
I love that fucking meme, by the way.
Third party candidate, please run, Tom Barack.
I've also added Pearson and Pascal to the indictment link. Pearson and Pascal worked for America First Policies. That was a nonprofit that Gates worked for before or after he left the Trump campaign. I can't remember which. I think before. It's a pro-Trump nonprofit, and it was responsible for the digital and data projects.
Okay.
So that's why I was like, ding, ding, ding.
Yeah.
All right. So Pearson and Pascal.
Have you guys pointed out the irony of it being called America First?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
oh my
good.
God.
So Pearson and Pascal, and then I have a bunch of K Street dudes. K Street is the street where all the lobbying firms are. So I think that there's going to be a bunch of guys who Manafort worked with that didn't register as foreign agents that maybe lobbied for Russia or anyone. I mean, if Manafort flips, he would have to tell them everyone he knows that's broken the law. And Gates might know some K Street dudes too. So I think I got a bunch of K Street dudes because I had a bunch of Russians.
Exactly.
And I got a point for that.
Yep, that worked out.
And then I've got Euro dudes, a bunch of Euro dudes. I think there's 3 sealed indictments headed to the UK for the UK right now sitting on the docket. And I think they're for these 3 guys that were at that Van der Zwaan, Rohrabacher, Manafort meeting.
Yeah.
Gates meeting that they all lied about. Why'd they all lie about that meeting?
Oh, I wonder.
So anyway, so I got a bunch of Euro dudes on there too. So I think, and I think you guys, within a week or two, I think Kushner's going down.
Yeah.
Kelly said by February 22nd, all people without clearance had to be out of the White House.
Nice.
And as you know, Kushner doesn't have clearance. So Trump, in his CPAC speech, which was so gross, said he would leave it up to Kelly, but sort of hinted that Kelly had better let him stay because what an amazing job he's doing. So they will soon be at an impasse, especially when the phone call from Rosenstein came, to the White House that we learned about.
Right.
Kush can't get clearance, likely due to his financial ties with sanctioned Russians and China on the 666 property, and possibly others. But a time will come when he either has to remove Jared or fire Kelly over Kushner.
Are you saying there's a possibility he owns something other than the 666?
Kushner properties, I think they have a lot of buildings.
Do you think he might own the 669? Okay, all right.
Hey.
The neighbor of the beast. So I think Kushner's going down, and let's see, he's probably not with Russian conspiracy to start with. Probably just money stuff.
Yeah.
Money laundering, bank fraud, tax evasion, violating sanctions, things like that. Things like these Gates and Manafort things are.
Exactly.
Because I think he's kind of keeping these over here because he doesn't want to get too much into conspiracy and obstruction because he doesn't want to show anybody what he's got.
Oh, he's so smart.
I'm not sure Mueller won't release them in groups like that. He could mix it up. I don't know.
We'll see.
But you guys, it's time for this week's Sabotage. Dudes. The Dem memo dropped.
Yes.
Oh, shit.
Yes.
Crazy.
So
I
that's...
haven't seen it yet.
No, yeah, well, it's pretty much what we all thought it was going to be. It picks apart the Republican memo piece by piece.
Okay.
It basically says, no, the judge did know that the Steele dossier was gotten through political opposition research. The FISA warrants were not based solely on the Steele dossier, and then they listed all these other things they were based on.
Right.
They were saying the FBI would be remiss if they did not surveil Carter Page because he's such a fucking creepy dude.
You know what I love? If they, just took the letter of Nunes' memo and just, corrected the grammar and just sent it back. How would I do that?
This is our memo.
Yeah.
Or just sent back one memo that just said asterisk you are. And
Right.
Yeah, so this, I put this down as the sabotage because it's the last minute news. And it occurred to me that maybe people didn't realize why I called this piece sabotage.
Right.
It was because this is news that comes out right before we record, and it could throw us for a loop, throw a wrench in our plans. Because there's a theory that the etymology of the word sabotage is from the Industrial Revolution when workers threw their wooden shoes called sabots into the machines.
No way.
To
I like that.
break them down.
That's
so
cool.
sabotage.
Yeah.
But actually, I think what it could also mean, and neither has been disproven, is that when you wear big giant wooden shoes, you give yourself away walking into a room.
Fair enough, yes.
You can't sneak around with those shoes. And you thus sabotage yourself. But
I just like yelling "Saboteur!"
Yes, that's very good. That's very good. I like your inflection. It's very nice. Saboteur. It's very sing-songy. My original sabotage, which came out minutes before that, was that I found out that Manafort has asset forfeiture clause in his fucking thing, in his indictment.
Does that mean he gives up his assets?
Mueller is brutal. If Manafort is convicted, per the asset forfeiture clause in his indictment, he will have to hand over all of his real estate to the government. No. And if it's sold or burned down or otherwise diminished or outside the jurisdiction of the court, Mueller can take something else instead that he deems necessary.
Wow.
It's fucking insane, you guys.
Your dog.
Correct me if I'm wrong, doesn't Manafort also owe money to people still?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's in, like, dire straits financially to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
He's fucked.
I doubt the information he gave Deripaska was worth $8 million.
Let's start a GoFundMe for Manafort just to see how much, because it might be like $14.
You mean how much you can just indirectly give to Mueller?
Yeah. I just want to see comedically how much money people are willing to give.
Cents.
Where's your empathy, America?
How poor are these rich people, man?
They're in a lot of debt, dude.
Jesus.
Oh, yeah.
All right,
I'm
we're gonna
poor
go.
as shit, and I have like a couple $100 in the bank right now. I don't owe anyone shit.
All right, guys, we're going to go on to questions. We had some good questions this week. I took a poll on Twitter about whether or not Manafort will flip. 63% said yes, and 37% said no.
Okay.
What do you guys think?
Oh, I think yes.
You think so?
Definitely. Why would anyone give themselves up for Trump? I don't think even his son would.
I don't think it's about Trump.
Okay. Yeah. What are you thinking?
I don't think he'll flip.
I don't think he will either.
Flip either, because I think there's people outside of our country that are invested in him keeping their secret.
Exactly.
So, like, if he flips, he dies.
Exactly.
It's like a domino effect you're thinking.
Now, I don't know if you know what happened to Yanukovych. Or not Yanukovych, but the guy who was running with Timoshenko.
What happened?
He was poisoned.
Yes.
By Putin.
Oh, so they're afraid of Putin. They're afraid of Putin, not Trump.
I feel like I would
that makes
almost
sense.
be less surprised to see him get poisoned than I would be to see him flip.
That is so true. Yeah. Damn.
So I think he won't flip because I think he would rather spend the rest of his life in
prison.
in a white collar prison.
Mm-hmm. Well, in an American prison as opposed to whatever Russia has.
Yeah.
And
Gulag?
yeah.
I didn't think about that at all.
Yeah,
Holy
he is so
shit.
fucked.
That's sad, guys. Like, that's depressing as fuck.
Yeah, and he I don't know. I don't think he'll flip.
Yeah, he's beholden.
You know
to
what?
too many
I'm not
people.
depressed. Fuck that guy.
I'm just depressed for the fact that Putin has a hold on this, like, more than we would like. I would just hope that out of all of this, something happens to him.
Funny you bring that up because at FauxProBot, also just goes by F on Twitter, asked if Mueller can indict Putin.
Oh,
he can.
What?
It doesn't mean
he will. But...
Doesn't mean he'll come and sit trial.
Yeah, I was like, he can do it all he wants. I don't think he's gonna make a difference.
He likes attention. He might show up.
Well, I actually
rides in on a bear. Summoned me. I'm here.
Yes, cozy bear.
I actually think he will indict Putin, just because I think he'll tie up all the
We're putting
loose
him on
ends.
the fantasy indictment league. Putin officially.
Ooh, that's exciting.
There we go.
That's an exciting development.
I mean, he's clearly broken some laws.
You're right.
He would have to have proof of it, but anyway.
Yeah.
Kevin Burns asked, what do you think the major reason is for Mueller to have talked to van der Zwaan? Is it something that Gates said? Kevin and I also determined that Maddow's mighty neck is what holds up her huge brain. So that's a sign.
That makes sense.
Maddow, I know.
Are people shading her for having
no.
I know, that's such a low voice.
Last week, like, I was high, and just you listen to it. But we love Maddow here. We weren't shading, just kind of messing around.
No, I was just wondering if somebody had called her out for having a thick neck. But
I called her a lizard person.
She has a thin, elegant neck.
She does. I'm like very sexually attracted to Rachel. I can't.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Really into her neck and only her neck.
Yeah, really into the neck.
Yeah.
My favorite part.
Guy.
My favorite part was when she was doing a story on who was it? Nancy Pelosi that stood up for 7 hours and did her speech in Congress. And she took off one of her Chuck Taylors or her Vans and she put it up on the desk with a ruler taped to the back of it to show what 4-inch heels looks like.
Respect.
You're So
Props.
adorable.
I love props.
I know you're listening, Rachel. So he said, "What do you think the major reason is Mueller to talk? Why does he want to talk to van der Zwaan? It's because van der Zwaan knows about that meeting. I think that either Gates or Flynn or told him about it." And so he brought him in to ask him, and he lied, and he goes, "No, I got emails," and he's like, "All right, I'll tell the truth, but I'm not cooperating." And that's why that went down. Lori Mallon, it might be Malin, and I had a discussion about how to say "bye, Felicia" in Russian.
Please tell me how.
Well, let's see.
До свидания, Felicia.
Felis, like.
We need a soundbite
Felis
of this.
Vanya.
Yes.
Felis Vanya?
Yeah, it was pretty good. It's on my phone.
Oh.
All right, so how to say "bye, Felicia" in Russian? I have "Das Vidanya Feliciav." I have there's a word called "poka," Felisnikov, and then "poka Felisnitskaya." Polka Felisnitskaya. That's "bye, Felicia."
That's nice. I like that.
I like that the Russians have an equivalent to Felicia.
Yeah, very inclusive of you. Yeah.
They
very
don't.
2018.
They only have like 5 or 6 names and then variants of those 5 or 6.
That's true.
Felisnitskaya.
They all sound like supervillains, every single one.
Definitely.
They do.
Yeah.
Shout out to @Tim Holian, who said, quote, "I listen to a lot of podcasts, and this one is important to me, as it's one of the few podcasts my wife and I discuss when we have time together."
Oh, that's very sweet. But like, you should also spend more time with your wife.
You can multitask.
I think they have jobs that keep them apart.
When I'm not keeping my wife locked up in the basement.
We listen to Mueller, she wrote.
Janelle Hampton @5Hampton5 said, quote, "You mentioned in episode 16 that there are 3 main areas of the investigation for Mueller. What are they? Obvi, money laundering, and tax evasion are one, but what are the others?" And then she also said, you mentioned 5 pillars in 3 areas. What are those? So within the money part, okay, so there's 3 areas of this investigation, and this is just what I've come up with in my head. This is how I keep things in order. This is not official.
Right.
I have the money, then I have obstruction, and then I have conspiracy.
Yes.
Those are the big 3. And in the money part, which is one of the 3 areas, there's 5 subsets, and that includes pay for play, like the mysterious withdrawals of money from shell companies by Russia. That's payments back and forth, quid pro quo. That's one. Tax evasion and fraud, money laundering, bank fraud, and FARA violations. So those are the 5 parts of one of the 3 pillars of the Mueller investigation.
I love this.
In my head.
This is, you can make a curriculum, like a textbook, a whole chapter, maybe not a whole textbook, but a nice chapter on this.
You could after this whole thing is over.
You're right.
Quick question.
Yeah.
That was mine. I'm sorry. Sorry. So quick question. If somebody gets money from the Russians for something in this
conspiracy.
Yeah. That's illegal money, right?
Yeah, that's called an in-kind campaign donation from a foreign national, and it's illegal.
Yes, so if they use that money to do something like use it in their real estate business or something like that, that's technically funding business with illegal makes. Can't you do a RICO Act and go for racketeering?
Well, if they're funding the campaign, that's an in-kind donation in any way. If they're funding real estate from illegally gotten money through money laundering, then yes, you're going to go RICO. So we've got 18 different ways that these people can be prosecuted.
Are they going for racketeering?
They might if they have to.
I haven't heard.
Because I know you don't want to add on stuff you can't prove because then something will...
They probably have like backup plans upon backup plans.
Well, yeah, because you've also got to realize that Mueller is leaving some of these charges for Attorney General Schneiderman in New York, so that he can prosecute these estate crimes in case Donnie decides to pardon anybody.
Right.
So he might be saving some of these other, like RICO and stuff like that for real estate in New York, like maybe Kushner's 666 building,
right?
For his stuff, because he, I know that they've been working in parallel to decide what they're going to do. And honestly, you guys, I sound like I know what I'm talking about, but I am a tiny speck of dust in a sea of information of what I have. What we do not know is immense. And I want to make that clear that I don't know shit. Okay.
Well,
I report
I'll
on
vouch for you. You know quite a bit.
Thanks, man.
But I feel you.
I report on what I know.
Yeah.
And what's publicly available. I will make conjecture.
You read a lot.
I'll make. Thank you. I'll make.
Sorry, she does.
Damn, have you even heard of TV? That's a Jim Gaffigan bit that
I
I
didn't even know. I just liked it.
You know what's great about television? No reading.
Subtitles.
So I just want to make it clear that, I know these little bits of things that are publicly available. I try to put them all together into one delicious show, and then I will make theories based on these things and try to connect my own dots.
Yeah, I like that. Delicious something burger out of nothing.
Deborah Faneros, at Deborah Faneros on Twitter, asked if the 13 Russian nationalists, can they be sanctioned? Will they be sanctioned, or will they have their assets seized? Regarding forfeiture of assets, yes. In this indictment, just like in Manafort's indictment, Mueller says if the Russians are convicted, the U.S. will seize any assets obtained using proceeds from the crimes. And if they can't, because the assets have been sold or can't be found or outside the jurisdiction of the court, have been diminished or commingled with any other property that can't be divided, the court can seize any other property of the defendant. As far as being sanctioned, I don't think so. I think sanctioned is a function of the executive branch,
right?
President, Treasury, it's Department of Treasury, etc. So I would maybe think that if the DOJ sent this over to the Treasury Department and said, you got to automatically sanction these guys because they've been indicted in a United States federal court. I don't know how that works. But either way, likely nothing's going to happen to any of these Russians, except they're not going to be able to show their faces anywhere because if they do, they're going to get extradited. And
we're just
have to
telling
face trial.
the story. We want people to just know what happened. Right?
That was
the whole point.
They call it a talking indictment. Yeah.
Oh.
Let's see. Anyway. I guess that's the last question.
Wow. Okay.
Dang.
Yeah, nice.
Thanks, Deborah Faneros. Did I get everyone? Yeah, I got everybody. Wow. Thank you all so much for engaging with us on social media. Keep the questions coming. We do love them. All right, you guys. Any last thoughts here before we wrap it up?
Can't wait for next week.
Yes.
It's just going to start. It's just going to go nuts.
I know. You guys make my commute so much more manageable. Thank you.
Hey, cult podcast.
Yes,
check
I'm
it out, guys.
Gonna check out all the cult podcasts.
Science faction. Cult podcast.
Yes.
And of course, Mueller, She Wrote. All are Podbean. We're all sisters.
That's
Sister
right,
podcast.
yeah.
Or, brother podcast. Or cis podcast. Maybe. I don't know.
There you go.
Cisgendered podcast.
Yes. Sissy
Not
gender.
exclusively.
Gender fluid podcast.
Non-binary podcast. Unless you look at the coding, then it's very binary.
There you go.
Yeah, what do coders do about being non-binary?
Ooh, which bathroom do they use? Sorry.
A bottle. A Mountain Dew bottle.
The virtual bathroom.
001.
00 or 01? 01, please. Anyway, you guys, I've been AG.
I've been Jordan Coburn.
I'm Jaleesa Johnson.
Thanks for listening to Mueller, She Wrote. Mueller, She Wrote is produced and engineered by AG, with editing and mixing by Jaleesa Johnson. Our digital media director and subscriber manager is Jordan Coburn. Fact-checking and research by AG with support from Jaleesa Johnson and Jordan Coburn. Our website design and creative is by Joelle Reeder with Moxie Design Studios, and our website is MuellerSheWrote.com.